Hi everybody, thought I'd show you the small modification I've done to my Harbor Freight metal brake. So I got the 30-inch metal brake from Harbor Freight. It's item 67240. I think it was somewhere around 67 or 8 bucks without a coupon. And it works pretty good, but like most Harbor Freight tools, you can do a little bit of tweaking to them and make them more user-friendly. So this thing only comes with the base of the metal brake, the frame, and then the top plate that lays on top of it, and the handles. But the top plate just lays there, and you have to secure it down with your own C-clamps or something like that, some kind of clamp to bend against. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt to mess with C-clamps every time, one on each side, and worry about that top plate being straight. So just kind of watch some other videos online, and there's some people doing these similar things. Thought I'd give it a go. Okay, so here's my metal brake. I went ahead and mounted it on a board. That way I can not have to mount it permanently to my workbench. I can just toss it up on top of my workbench when I need to use it and clamp the board down. I just used a 2x8 because I had it laying around, but leave enough room on each side of the board that you can clamp against. I just drilled a hole in it just so I can hang it on the wall if I want to. But this is the brake. You put your metal there, you put the top plate on top here, and you have to secure the top plate down, and then you do your bending. Bend your metal up, your edge. So I'll just show you. I did this mod with just a bunch of hardware I got at the hardware store, and a piece of angle iron that I had laying around that I had to weld onto that top plate there. But to mount it, I used all carriage bolts. So I got a couple of 2.5-inch long by 3/8 size carriage bolts here, just to mount to the board. And then the modification is this spring. This is going to hold our top plate up a little bit to allow us to slip our metal in and out a little bit more easier, and then tighten it down when we need to do the bending. So this is it's a 6-inch long carriage bolt. It's a 3/8, but you can use any size you want, really. And I just found this spring at the hardware store. It's just like a door spring with a washer. A couple nuts on the bottom here. That way you can adjust the height of the spring if you want to with this nut. But I was good with it all the way down. A washer, the spring, another washer. Do the same on both sides. And then you can see that I did, with my angle grinder, I did have to grind this down right here on each side. That's because when I lay the top plate down, when I lay that angle iron on top, it wouldn't go all the way down flush with that welded together. You'll see when I put it together here. But I've already welded my angle iron on, but essentially it just sits right on top of the spring there. And those springs hold it up right here and give you some spring action, which is pretty handy. And then to tighten it down, I got these barrel nuts, pretty good sized barrel nuts that you can put on, and you can then use a ratchet or a wrench or a drill or whatever to tighten down on each side. But you can see now that it's all together why that area had to be grinded down right here. It's because when you weld the top plate to this angle iron, when you tighten it down, the angle iron would hit right here and it wouldn't let you get tight enough. So if you just grind that down, there's enough metal there. There's no worry about grinding off too much. It's pretty straightforward. You'll see once you get it together. And I just grind it off a little bit, this angle iron here, so when I raise this up, it has room to swivel. There's different ways to do this. You may wonder, well, how do I get this gap right on my top plate? Well, you can do some testing, experimenting with your metal, but in general, you don't need much of a gap. You need, it says about 1/8 of an inch, but I found about the width of one washer or two washers. If you can kind of get it the same and even on both sides, and tighten her down and test it, you'll figure out what you need. And then once you're happy with that and it's straight, tighten it down and then weld it in a few places. I just used a stick welder. You could use whatever you have, MIG or anything. Do a little welding to get that how you like it. One thing I thought I'd note for you guys is when you're welding the top plate to the angle iron, make sure you get your top plate the right way. It does actually matter which way is up. This top plate has a shape kind of like a trapezoid. So the bottom, if you look at it from the side profile, the bottom is a little bit wider than the top. That way, when you do your bending, you can kind of over bend it just past 90, just a hair, because the top is a little bit narrower, because the metal will always have a little bit of spring back. Usually you bend it just barely past 90 and it springs back to 90 when you're done. But make sure you get it the right direction before you weld it, because that would be a pain if you did not. And here you can see I just got a test piece of metal I stuck in here. This is where I want it bent. I had the line drawn. I've tightened it down already. So now you can just do your bending like you need. If you over bend it a little bit, if there's not enough spring back of the metal, you can kind of pull it out a little so that it's at a 90. And that's it. Loosen up these nuts on both sides a little bit. All right, should be loose enough now to pull her out of there. Pull it out, and you've got yourself a bend, you know, whatever you need to do. So that's just a little modification you can do. Now, if you're worried about all the different gaps you might want to do, if you have different thicknesses of metal, you're not going to be bending too many different kinds of metal with this thing, but for the most part, this gap will work fine just for what I need. If you're worried about it, when you drill these holes in the angle iron, you can drill them out so they're slotted, or even cut out slots. That way you can adjust this. But I thought that kind of defeated my purpose. I didn't want to have to fiddle with setting the width on both sides every time I loosen this thing. I just drilled the hole that I needed. I'm going to live with the one size I've kind of set it at, and I'm doing a lot of sheet metal for like an old project car I'm working on. So it's 18 gauge metal for the most part, maybe one or two sizes off of that either direction, but it'll do for what I need it for. And as always, you do a test piece before you do your actual piece. But hopefully that's one little modification that will make this thing more user-friendly, and hope that helped out you guys.